Welcome back to the center of it all. Now, after my week away in Italy, Mel asked me, what would I want her to make? Well, after all that pizza and pasta, I suggested that she make something carnivorous. So today, Mel is going to be making her bone-sucking baby back spare ribs.
It's been brought to my attention that after 122 episodes of Kitchen Encounters, I've neglected my responsibility to crock-pot recipes. Today, I am here to right that wrong. Join me at the counter while I show you how to make bone-sucking baby back spare ribs in the crock-pot. When it comes to prepping ribs for the crock-pot, it's no different than getting them ready for the gas grill or the smoker or even the oven. It starts by removing the silver skin, which is the membrane that runs all across the underside of each rack. It's easy to do, and it's easiest to do if the ribs are cold. What you do is you take the tip of a sharp knife and run it underneath one of the rib bones till you loosen a piece of the skin. Grab a dry paper towel when you've loosened the membrane and give it a tug. And if it gets a little tougher to one end. And once this membrane is off, it allows the entire underside of the ribs to absorb the rib rub and the sauce just as well as the top side. When it comes to cooking ribs in a crock pot, you've got to cut them to fit. And I find that in any size crock pot, as long as it's a large crock pot, 2 racks will fit and cutting them in thirds works best. And that's really easy to do. You just cut between the bones. You just find a spot between the bones and run your knife, follow it straight through till you get to the other side. That's 1/3. We'll cut this straight through. That's 3/3. Okay, we got a little bit of skin caught in this one. Well, that was easy enough. Now it's time to season our ribs. And you'll see I have this piece of plastic down here because this is really the easiest way to keep your mess under control. And what we want to do is pick your favorite seasoning, your homemade blend. I love bone-sucking seasoning and bone-sucking sauce, but if you want to go Asian, try some Szechuan seasoning and maybe some Mandarin-style teriyaki sauce. There's also get a Jamaican jerk rub and get some Jamaican barbecue sauce. You can go in any direction at all with these ribs. And you want to season them. I'm going to season them first on the bottom side. Now that all that membrane has been removed, it's going to absorb the rub, the seasoning. And then you want to flip them over top side. And give them another good season across their tops. If you have the time to let these sit for 10 or 15 minutes, that's great. If you don't, we're going to load them up in the crock pot. As soon as I wash my hands, we're going to load these up in the crock pot. As I mentioned before, 2 racks of ribs will fit in any large-sized crock pot. I'm kind of partial to my crock pot casserole because it gives me not the depth, but the surface area. No matter what, you're going to have to do some overlapping and stacking. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. So I'm just going to start with the 2 end sections from each rack. And then I'm going to fit the 3rd one on top and the 4th one, the 5th and 6th pieces in. that's great. This is where the piece of plastic for cleanup comes in really handy because all that rib rub is in the trash. Now the next thing you want to do is add about 14 ounces, this is a 16-ounce jar of barbecue sauce, and you're just going to drizzle this over the top of the ribs. And you want to lift it up a little just to get some down in the bottom. You don't want to fill the bottom of your crock pot with barbecue sauce. It's completely unnecessary. This is all going to steam together. And we'll lift this up, get some down in there, move them around just a little bit. Okay, I've got about a quarter of a jar left. Once again, I'm going to wash my hands, then I'm going to pop these in the crock pot on high for 2 hours and low for 2 hours. And if there's nobody home, let them on warm for 2 hours. There's one last step before we eat, and I promise it's a quick one. I've lined a large baking sheet with aluminum foil and a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to transfer my rib sections to the baking pan. And you can see the drizzle of the barbecue sauce, they're all nicely coated. There's no issues with them not being sauced properly. Go this way, okay. All right, they're all in the pan. And the last thing to do is that little bit of barbecue sauce that's left, we're going to paint the tops with the last quarter of the jar. Empty out the jar. Nice even painting. And now for the last step, I'm going to pop these under a preheated broiler for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then we eat. I'll admit, the machinations of making spare ribs in a crock pot never seemed quite right to me. Kind of like fitting a square peg in a round hole. But I'm here to tell you, as a lover of ribs that fall off the bone, these are everything they're crocked up to be. For these and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
Thank you, Mel, for these delicious ribs, and the entire kitchen is just filled with that sweet barbecue smell. And I just so happen to wear a white shirt today, but it is totally worth the potential risk of a stain for these delicious ribs. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at how some women are taking the initiative and learning the right skills to help protect themselves.